in a matter of days, really effectively the end of day today, 7.5 million people are going to lose some form of their unemployment benefits. Millions are going to lose the $300 extra they were getting from the federal government. Millions are going to lose all of their unemployment insurance because they were, so-called gig workers. This is a real problem. There is plenty of data that came out that show that the states that rolled back their unemployment insurance, the extra benefits, the extra expansion of it in terms of who gets it, there was no appreciable jump at all in employment. Some studies show that the employment grew at a slower rate. And, it's hard to disaggregate. Those states probably more likely are having a Delta surge, right? Because they have no other things that are going on. And so it's hard to sort of like assess that. Maybe people were like, I don't care, that they've stripped me of my unemployment. Like, I'm not going back and risking my life for this. But it shows that there's just what is driving unemployment right now. And the unwillingness of people to go back to certain jobs is the deadly pandemic we're in the midst of. Not, I'm living large because I now have the ability to pay my rent or something. And I mean, this is, in months from now, you combine this with the eviction moratorium, we're going to have a serious, serious crisis in this country, it seems to me.
Well, it certainly seems like it's a time bomb, right? Just waiting to go off. I mean, with the jobs numbers came out this morning and were much, less than what the economists had been predicting. There had been a huge upsurge in job growth in June and July, and in August it flattened out. It's much less than what they expected. And of course, I mean, I think you're right. This is about COVID. This is about COVID. The hospital, I mean, we're seeing, stories every day of hospitals being overrun. People aren't, they had gunshot wound victims in Oklahoma who were unable to get care because the hospitals were overrun with COVID patients. And we all know the reason for that. We don't need to belabor it. We have a bunch of people who are refusing to get vaccinated, and they're going into the hospital and dying, and burdening our healthcare system. But nonetheless, that's what's happening. And the idea that somehow or another you're going to just remove all the, the sort of, infrastructure, the support infrastructure that had been built in really from the beginning of the pandemic, going back to the first, SHARE Act under Trump, that suddenly that's just going to fall off while we're having this massive new surge in COVID. Seems bizarre to me. Now, the eviction moratorium, we saw what happened with that. Biden and the administration, they were pressured into reinstating it. They said outright, we think that this is going to be overturned by the Supreme Court, but we're going to do it. Maybe we can buy some time, because there was a lot of money sitting in pots around the country in local and state jurisdictions that hadn't distributed the money to people that could have helped them over the hump.
We've had like 5 or 7% of the 43 some odd billion dollars has been appropriated at this point.
I mean, I don't know what's happened to the money, but I assume it's just sitting there, but I don't know. Maybe they've spent it on other things, like Donald Trump's Secret Service. I don't even know. But, they were able to get a little bit of time, but I haven't heard, maybe you have, whether or not they were able to speed up the distribution of those funds. I don't know. So now we're having this unemployment thing. And you remember when they first extended it in the original, COVID relief package under the Biden administration, there was a huge brouhaha about the unemployment benefits. They wanted to cut them off in July, I think, and they managed to extend it through to where it is now. So this is a huge political fight. But it's ridiculous, because at the time we were thinking that the pandemic was actually coming to a close. If everyone, I don't think, Mitch McConnell said this week, it never occurred to me that people wouldn't get vaccinated. Well, and everybody made fun of him for it. kind of felt the same way. I didn't know this many people would refuse to get vaccinated. I mean, I just kind of thought that vaccinations were a no-brainer. But obviously I was wrong, and Mitch McConnell and I both were wrong on that. And this is where we are. So you've got to adjust to the new circumstance. And, this political fight shouldn't even be happening. The pandemic is still going on. We're still in the emergency. The economy is reflecting that. We're seeing the job growth fall off pretty precipitously because of it. We're seeing growth, fall off. There is a lot, the fact that we can't be more nimble with these things, that there's no ability to kind of just shift gears if you have to do it, that we're locked into this kind of thing is just it's terribly frustrating. And you're right. I mean, this is a time bomb waiting to go off. And, I think that if the Republicans have their way, Jamel Bowie in the New York Times wrote a piece about how the Republicans were consciously trying to extend the COVID crisis for political purposes. I mean, that they're doing it with the knowledge people are dying, but it's okay. And if you look at a guy like Ron DeSantis, there's no doubt. I mean, of course, he's doing it for political purposes. If that's the case, this time bomb is going to be set to go off in time for the election in 2022. And they can, they'll be able to deploy the Biden failed at, containing the virus, the economy's in the toilet, and look at what a failure he's been. We have to put the adults back in charge. And, I can see that happening. And I really hope the Biden people are aware of it and are doing everything they can to ensure.
$7.
Yep. Well, one hopes so. I don't even see any. I haven't seen any talk of addressing this. Have you?
No, I mean, this is like, it's just happening. It's like one of these things where we're just going, well, that's it. That's the rule, something. It's like, that's what I'm saying. There's no sense that there's a nimbleness, it's like that. There's just, things seem just really stuck in the gears right now. And I know that they're focusing heavily on the reconciliation bill and on the infrastructure bill. And that's huge because it's going to, it has to do with the budget and the debt ceiling and all the rest of this big fight is coming up. But this is actual real people right now that are going to be in very big trouble when this money falls off and they're in the middle of a Delta surge. What are they going to do? I mean, what do you do?
And we should say, the Delta right now, anyways, it appears at least, we may have peaked, or at least in some of the most populous states. But I hate to reiterate, there's a lot more letters in the Greek alphabet after Delta.
Exactly.
Folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really, thank you.